It is August 20th, a regular scheduled meeting of the Wareham School Committee. I would like to, before we start the proceedings, make a couple of announcements. The first is an announcement and also a very, very small presentation from the school committee, is that our superintendent did receive her doctorate, and knowing what she had to do to go through it, I think that that is a feat that's worth announcing, and we congratulate you. And so welcome aboard, Dr. Schaefer-Hood.
Thank you very much.
And as a token of the school committee, we know that you've got an outdated plaque now. So we wanted to make sure that your plaque signified your title. So
Thank you
from
very
now on,
much.
it's an official title of Dr. Kimberly Schaefer-Hood.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I would also, on a sad note, like to just have a moment of silence for a colleague, someone that I worked with for many, many years, an outstanding educator, one that was a teacher, an assistant principal, and she served Wareham Public Schools for well over 30 years. She passed away after a brief illness, so I'd like to have a moment of silence for Melissa Drake. Thank you. In regards to that, I think Dr. Schaefer-Hood has an announcement to make regarding Melissa's passing.
Thank you. On September 20th at 1 o'clock, there'll be a celebration of life memorial for Melissa Drake. It will be held at Stevie B's. If you're interested in attending, there's no charge, although donations will be taken at the door, and all proceeds will be donated to the Wareham schools in Melissa's name. Also, they're looking for prize donations. If you would like to drop some off, they could be dropped off at Stevie B's, or you can email us at the school department and we will get them to the fund. There's also been a fund set up in the Rockland Trust. It's a memorial fund. You can walk in and make a donation. All proceeds, again, will go to, half will be a scholarship fund and half would go to the elementary middle school. So thank you very much.
Thank you. At this particular time, I'd like to go to the agenda, seeing that we got off agenda a little bit. And is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the school committee on the public participation? Could you just have a seat and identify yourself? Although I know who you are.
For many years. Hello, my name is Sarah. No, I'm going to say Sarah Cabral. Look at that. Sarah Lima.
I'm Heather Hogan.
And we're here to, we're part of the PTA, the middle school, high school PTA. And I think the last time that we were here, we were talking about maybe dismantling. We didn't have a president. She's not here, though. And we did actually have someone step up to the plate to fill the position of president. So Kim Cormier will be the president of the middle school, high school PTA. We've changed things up a little bit. We're actually having two vice presidents.
Excellent, you found the funding? Yay!
Two vice presidents, myself, and I will be working with the high school portion of the PTA, and Heather is going to be doing the middle school portion. And we have our treasurer still here with us, Tricia, and we just need a secretary. So hopefully someone will step up. If not, I was told that possibly the secretary a few years back would do it for one more year if that's not the case. So we've got a lot of good things going on. We're already working on a comedy show, but it's going to be a little bit different. Oh, and there is our president right there.
Yay!
We're working on a comedy show, but we're going to actually do that for the high school, and it's going to be for the high school students. It's going to be some of the acts, but it's going to be more appropriate for the high school 9th to 12th graders, so that the high school kids can come to it and attend, and more family fun. We're working on a Halloween dance party for the 5th and 6th graders at the middle school, and possibly a scavenger hunt for the 7th and 8th graders. So we've got a lot of different things going and brewing, and we kind of met with Mr. Minkle and Mr. Palladino to kind of throw off ideas what we can and cannot do, and what they want, what they like, what they think is going to work. So I think we're getting off to a good start, starting on September 11th, our first PTA meeting. So just want to get the word out there, and you'll be seeing maybe more of us, and and we're going to be doing a lot more. We're going to be doing a lot of different things. We've got a lot of different great ideas going, so we just wanted to let
Sarah,
you guys know that.
Thank you so much, and hopefully somebody will step forward to take the secretaryship. And both of you, I really appreciate everything that you do in your efforts, and I think that I sense a renewed enthusiasm, so I think that you really have good things. And just on a personal note, knowing what you're going through right now with all of the things on your plate, this is really a tribute to you and the dedication to the community. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And Kim, I don't know if you want to.
Thank you so much for
Thank
stepping
you.
up.
Thank you.
She's our president, so we thank her very much for stepping forward and taking on those big shoes that Chris definitely.
If there's anything that we can do,
Oh, there she is.
Yeah.
if there's anything that we can do, please do not hesitate. And you can get a hold of me real easy.
Yes.
For now.
Yes. Don't you worry, I'll be calling if I need something.
Thank you, Sarah.
Just
Yep.
one
Thank you for
question.
stepping in.
Yeah, oh, question.
That's okay. So the meeting on September 9th,
September the 11th is
Seventh,
the
okay.
first PTA meeting.
time and location?
Okay, it will always be the second Thursday of every month, 6 o'clock at the middle school library.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Anyone else in the audience that would like to address the school committee at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to good news. Madam Superintendent?
Thank you. Several announcements. We have middle school 5th grade orientation. It will be tomorrow evening at 5:30. The Wareham Elementary PTA will host a school meet and greet at both elementaries. The DECUS will be held on Tuesday, August 26th, 6 to 7. Meet the teacher, and from 7 to 8, family entertainment and refreshments. Mine at Forest will be held on Wednesday, August 27th, 6 to 7. Meet the teacher, and 7 to 8, family entertainments. On August 28th, the kindergarten rally at the Onset Band Shell will begin at 6 o'clock, so we would encourage all parents to come out to the various events, visit the schools, and we start school for teachers on August 27th, and for students, it's September 2nd, so we're fast approaching the date.
Go ahead.
I also have one announcement that through a lot of hard work between the town administrator and myself and members of our school administrative team, we will be bringing the SRO back this year. He will be in the schools during the school year, and we certainly appreciate everyone's hard work and help with this coming about. So thank you.
Thank you. That's good news. Anyone on the committee have good news?
All set.
All set? Mike?
No, I guess I have something.
All right, good.
I don't know, it was probably a few Saturdays ago, I was in the parking lot heading over to the Pop Warner practice, and I noticed that it was a Saturday, and I noticed that the weight room was open, the old Boys and Girls Club, and people were doing things in there, and I hadn't seen that before, so I asked what was going on. And they said there was a fundraiser going on. And I asked about it and such, and this has to be one of the best-kept secrets out there, because I guess it's been going on for years, and they ended up roping me in for $10 for one of these things, right? But it's the best $10 I've spent in a while, because it's got so many discounts on it that are good for the whole year. If you see anyone, this is for the football team specifically, and for example, I mean, Dunkin' Donuts, you get a free donut with the purchase of a beverage all year. Free Whopper with the purchase of another Whopper all year, 15% off Olympia Sports. It's got the whole back of it has a whole ton of stuff on there that's just awesome deals. So if you know anyone or you see anyone from the football team, they're selling these for $10 and they're worth every penny.
No, they really are.
I never heard of it.
That's good news and a good commercial.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Mr. Lazarus?
I have one thing. I was able to attend a meeting that was put on by our chair of the Mass Association of Schools Committees, Division 7. Am I saying that?
Former chair.
Former chair.
Well, former chair of this body, you mean chair of the Division
Yeah.
7?
Yeah, the
Division
Division
7.
7.
Right.
That addressed the park testing and how Bridgewater State, as well as other institutions are getting ready, or not getting ready, but are preparing teachers and educational staff on the park test, and how they're going to be helping to then in turn prepare our students for the park testing. And there was an individual from Bridgewater State, her name is,
Lisa Badalino.
yeah, who was
She's
great.
the dean.
Which provided a lot of information on some of the things that they're doing at Bridgewater State. But also our superintendent was there and spoke, and there were other school committee members there from the rest of the Division 7, and they were beyond impressed by the things that Wareham is doing, and specifically the superintendent and the administration and the teachers are doing here to prepare our students for the park testing. So I was happy to attend, but I got way more out of it than I thought that I would, so.
What?
Did you thought
Had low
No,
expectations.
is that what they call a sideways
I was on
compliment or a
vacation,
backwards compliment?
much rather have been someplace else, but it was terrific.
She went in with really low
Low
expectations.
Low expectations, so.
Oh,
No, our superintendent and, just Jeff put it together, and our superintendent did an amazing job, and heard from several other school committee members saying, you got it right, so it's good.
very good.
Just
Thank
as a footnote to that, the state, including Wareham, but the state, has a major challenge. Park was used as the state standard for New York last year, and their rate of passing dropped in half. So the Bridgewater State Dean says, we'll do much better than that.
I hope.
I hope she's right.
I am too. All right. At this particular time, I'd like to have someone make a motion to approve the minutes of July. First one will be the July 8th.
So moved.
I have a motion to accept.
Second.
I have a second. Is there any discussion, omissions, deletions, corrections? Seeing none, hearing none. I'll entertain a motion. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's 5-0-0.
Abstain.
No, abstain. 4-0-1. No, yeah, 4-0-1. Okay, now we'll do the minutes of July 23rd. That was the joint meeting that we had with the FinCom and Board of Selectmen. Mr. Swett.
There may not be anybody in the room. Maybe Michael is the closest person who might have the answer to this, but I'm looking at this, what is it, the third paragraph or something, where it says Walmart has prepaid $1,700 to the town. I'm hoping there's a decimal point problem with that number, because if it's only 1,700, it was almost not worth mentioning. So does anybody have any recollection of whether that number is correct?
I don't.
Any help, Michael? No, I would you be equally, do you feel equally that it's unlikely to be that small?
Well, it depends, it says prepaid, so I don't know if it's just
Anyway, with your approval, Madam Superintendent, I would like Michelle to verify that number before it gets approved. You see what I'm talking about?
This is on the 23rd, Jeff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised too.
I don't see it.
No, it's there.
Yeah,
Where?
it's the fourth paragraph of
Oh,
the
yeah.
the fourth line of the. I didn't remember
This-
Walmart being mentioned that
Oh,
night.
it's-
Yeah, that's a little different.
Mine is different.
Yeah.
Maybe I sent the wrong one.
No, it's a different one.
I don't see it. That's okay.
I'm looking at
Yeah. Cliff
Joint
has a
meeting, July 23rd.
And I see it on mine, but Cliff's got a different one.
Yeah, that's might have been the notes, and I.
Oh, that's
typed
the
them,
one I
so
got.
Let me
Yeah.
send.
I
you
have the
right
same
now.
one.
Do you have the one that says 1,700?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll send you this one, we'll put it on the next
It's,
meeting.
it's
'Cause
not
It wasn't
worth,
in the 1,700, I didn't put it in,
okay.
I was thinking the same thing.
Okay, so.
See, I don't have it in mine.
Okay,
Yeah,
if so
because
if,
Yeah,
This is what
I know, yeah,
Michelle
right.
prints
I'm
those
perfectly
out.
willing to
Right.
approve something. I'm perfectly willing to make a motion to approve something that doesn't have that number in it, because that was the only problem I had.
Well, I can send it and put it on the next one, that's fine.
Okay,
So everybody has the same thing.
You want to hold off on approval?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just hold off on
Okay,
approval.
thank you.
That'll be all right.
Just forward.
Okay, just make sure that we do it, that's all. I think that, now we're going right to the policies, I would think. Madam Superintendent?
Yes. As we start, I would like to ask the committee to pull back the social networking for staff. We would like to do a little bit more revision with this and adjustment. We will be bringing it forward after some discussion with our attorney and other folks. So that
And-
would come back.
And if anyone on the committee has anything that, as they read through it and digest it, get back to the superintendent. So do we need a motion to postpone any action, or just forget about it?
table it for a date certain.
Probably the first meeting in October.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we're going to table the social networking policy till the meeting of October 1st. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 500.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I just wanted to commend Mike and Jeff for putting all the work into this.
Yes.
I think it's an incredible,
I do
incredible
too.
first
I
draft.
was very
and
impressed.
the amount of thought that went into all the different complex pieces of this, I think you guys addressed many of them. And so I had some comments that I was going to say tonight, but what I'll do is maybe pass those comments on to the superintendent, so then when it comes back, those will be included. So
Good.
a really, really
No,
great
I was
job.
going to make the same thing. As I read through it, and there's an awful lot there, and there's an awful lot for me too, because
Against
Brian.
Brian.
I'm not really active with social networking, but
Anyway,
there was a lot of things, there was a lot of thought that went into it, and there was a lot of planning and provisions for the unexpected, and I was most impressed about that. So I think that you both have to be complimented on the job that you did putting that together. So hopefully we can iron it out and get it all ready to go on the 1st. Any other discussion?
just as long as we're passing out kudos, while I appreciate them, I think our superintendent was part of this team.
Yes.
So it was very much a
I meant
joint-
the whole team. I didn't,
a joint
I meant the
effort.
members of the school committee, and obviously our superintendent, for their hard work, because it really, really is, I think, very impressive. Okay, next.
This policy is on disposal of obsolete equipment. I would like Mr. McMillan to please speak to this because he has helped author.
Mr. Chair, while he's getting ready, I just wanted to say regarding that joint meeting, I wasn't able to attend, but I did watch the video, and I do want to thank you for trying to convey what I had asked you to, which you did really well. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Good evening. Good evening, school committee.
Good evening, Mr. McMillan.
So we have before you a proposed policy to allow us the process for disposal of obsolete equipment, particularly at this moment when we've been making a lot of a lot of building changes and trying to tidy up our buildings, clear out space, make room. Then we have obsolete or unused equipment that we would like to be able to dispose of. Under the Mass General Law, we have to have a policy in order to do that, and this is our proposed policy. In practice, what this would mean is that periodically we would come to a school committee and present a list of obsolete items for a vote of the school committee, and once that was taken, then the superintendent would be able to dispose of it in the manner suggested.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right, any discussion from the school committee? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Those in favor of accepting this policy for the disposal of obsolete equipment, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 500.
We didn't really have a motion.
Oh, I thought we had a motion. No? Oh, I
So
thought we had a
moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 500. Thank you, Jeff.
So, sorry, just, I mean, we had included in the papers a first list of obsolete equipment, so I'm not sure if it's possible to take that now.
What, you want to go home?
Just be as efficient as possible.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question about this list?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to accept it now, because it wasn't on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
All right.
But I don't think anyone will be remiss if we do this out of order.
I'm just glad there are no people on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. All right, let's, can I have a motion, just for the record, to debate this obsolete equipment list? I'll bring it
So
on the
moved.
agenda.
I heard a motion and I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 500. Okay, you have the floor.
Thank you.
Mrs. Vugan.
So before something actually gets on this list, is there an effort to, because I see it says lease or that you're, looking to maybe sell. I know that probably they're on this list because they're not sellable, they're not, nothing really can be done with them. But will we get a list of items and then the category that they're in, if there is an opportunity to sell them, or is that something that's completely separate?
Yes, for the moment, this list is all property which should be disposed of. This is
Okay.
all unusable technological equipment. I think partly to your point is our technology team are very good at harvesting everything they get. So they'll strip, they'll take chips, they'll take motherboards, keyboards, the mouses, the screens, everything they can from these units. So they'll take, we will use, at the moment, rather than selling, we've been reusing. So there's always a way to reuse some of this equipment.
Okay.
So, but as we've done, as in the process of some of our school moves, are starting to identify some equipment that we might be able to resell, in which case we would do that, and we would identify that at the time. But so far, this list is all obsolete equipment, which has no value anymore and is not sellable.
So just for my own sake, okay? So tonight, if we approve this list, basically what we are doing is approving this list as obsolete. In other
Yes.
words, deeming it obsolete. Is that
Yeah.
correct? Am I right in assuming that? Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
So that it can apply to the policy, yes.
Right. So we're deeming this obsolete equipment? Okay. So it conforms to the policy. Right. Mr. Sweat?
Could you explain the column entitled Date Parted?
That was the date at which it was identified as obsolete.
Is that a Scottish term, parted?
No, it's a technology term, I think.
Ah,
They're very attached to their technology in the tech office.
not departed, just parted,
Parted.
though, right? Okay.
This might need some fine tuning as we work through this process.
And I assume when it says damaged, it means irreparably damaged,
Exactly.
not cost-effective to repair.
Yeah. Sometimes you can't get the pieces you need anymore because some of these were bought in 2002 or before. So there's the missing pieces are no longer available, or if they are, it'd be so costly as to repair them as to be, inefficient.
And finally, Mr. Chair, would you say from an electronics perspective, because I believe this is virtually all electronics, is this a complete list? Meaning, have we really identified every piece of irreparably damaged, obsolete equipment?
No.
No.
So, this will be an ongoing process. Every day, well, not every day quite, but frequently desktops will break down and not be fixable because we've got a lot of, the average age of a desktop in the district at the moment is 5 years old.
But I wasn't actually asking that question.
Oh, sorry.
At that moment, in early to
Yeah.
mid-April.
Yes,
Was this a complete list?
yes, it was.
Thank you.
So-
Okay.
Um,
All set, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else on this list? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to deem this list this evening as obsolete equipment.
So
Is that
moved.
the right motion? I got the motion.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 500.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Now we've got discussion of academic standards is on the agenda. When I took over as chair, I asked any committee member that if they'd like to discuss an issue or think that an issue is worthwhile putting on the agenda, to please request it of me, and I'll make every effort to do that. Mr. Flaherty asked if I would put that on the agenda for some discussion this evening, so that's why it's on there. I think it's a very timely time to be discussing this also, given the fact that we're starting our athletic season and so forth. So I'd like to have Michael start it if he could, and then anyone can chime in. While you're doing that, if you'll just excuse me, I have to take care of it.
Okay. Should I wait, or?
No, go
Okay,
ahead.
all right. Yeah, I thank the chair for putting this on the agenda, and for the record, frankly, whenever I've asked any of the chairs while I've been on the school committee to put anything on, they've always accommodated me, so I appreciate that, too. This agenda item says discussion on academic standards for co-curricular. And when I saw that, I thought maybe I'd call up and say maybe we should have a vote. It's just, but once you put discussion, we're just discussing it. There won't be a vote, as I understand it tonight, regarding anything we discuss. But to cut to the chase, it sounds kind of nebulous, but to cut to the chase, what I want to discuss is the notion or the practice that the Wareham Public Schools has with allowing students to fail classes and still participate in sports and extracurricular. And frankly, I find that unacceptable. And I know that, for example, when the Wareham students attend classes at Upper Cape, they're not allowed to fail any courses if they're participating in sports. And so I think that it's one of those things that once I learned about it, I was like, I couldn't believe it. And once I got to talking to parents about it, they were like, oh, you didn't know that? Yeah, no, you're never going to get that through. So anyway, I'd like to discuss it. I'd like to, at some point soon, bring up a motion, because every time the athletic director meets here, we touch on it, and people say that, oh, well, we have to, have a real discussion on this, and it has to be done, with enough notice to let the students know and what to expect and such if we decide to do anything about it. But I'd like to open it up and get people's thoughts on having a zero tolerance policy for people that fail classes and still participate in extracurricular, whether it's sports or chess or whatever.
You're the acting chair.
I am, yes. Yes, I am. So anyone? Yes, Mr. Sweat.
I have felt the way you felt for years, and each time I bring it up, there's a pushback, and I'm told that I don't really fully understand the implications it would have, mostly for the high school, in terms of participation. I'm told that the MIAA rules allow this. I'm told that we are already, as a result of actions that we've taken before you were on the board committee, our standards are more rigorous than the MIAA. And each time I'm told this, I don't get a groundswell of support from this committee, and I back off.
Oh.
But I still feel that way. I completely agree with you. And I believe that our students with the let's just state a fact, and that is that the average student's GPA for those that are participating in athletics, I don't know about the chess team, et cetera, is higher than the overall average. And I believe that our students would rise to the occasion, and that participation would be equally good, and grades would improve.
Yeah.
So I completely support your initiative.
Thank you. And in fairness, I mean, when I have discussed this with the high school staff and such, the concern is sort of if we went this route, then the worry is that some of these students would then water down their course load to have easier courses. And I'm sorry, but I mean, that should be discouraged. But I mean, we're here to educate students. That's what we're here for. That's the priority. That's why I joined the school committee, not to, make sure that someone can still play ball when they're failing courses.
What is your premise? Just
Oh,
just give me the.
oh, just the premise that we discuss this, we touch on it all the time at these
Yes.
During the athletic reports and stuff, and to my surprise, I mean, the athletics director supports having it, not being able to fail courses and still
The
play.
current one.
Mhm.
The current one, yes.
Yes.
And it's a question that I asked of the superintendent when we were doing the interview process, and I was impressed with her answer as well. And everyone I speak to, usually, is in favor of it, but they for some reason seem to think it would never fly, probably for the reasons that Mr. Sweat says. But I'm sorry, we got to at least discuss it and bring it to a vote one way or another, I think.
Well, I think that's, we need to discuss it, whether or not that we can do anything we want, but the problem with doing it now, in my opinion, is the fact that we've already approved the handbooks. And so because we've already approved the handbooks, that part of the handbook is already in print, and we've already approved it. But I certainly think that we can change it, we can do anything we want, we're the policymakers. So I'd be very interested in listening to both sides, if there was both sides. It doesn't sound like there is both sides right now. But I'm for high standards. I always have been for high standards, but I also am for second chances. And so whatever we decide to do, I think there should be some kind of safety net in it to provide for that one-time mess-up. Because I can honestly say I had a couple of one-time mess-ups when I was in high school, and I would hate to think that it was going to cost me to play when that was the reason I stayed in high school, was to play sports. But that's another story. Go ahead, Mr.
I would like to request our student representative to opine on this issue.
So I agree with pretty much everything that's been said. I do think we would need to have a safety net because everyone, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think everyone has the mistake every now and again. So I feel like there'd have to be maybe a probational period for something like that. I don't know how it would work. Maybe if you maybe you'd have to miss a game or whatever it was, there'd have to be some repercussion. You'd get a chance, but there wouldn't be so many chances where it's like the policy's not even there. But I agree that we shouldn't be able to play sports or do anything extracurricular if we're failing classes.
Well,
To you, Mr. Chair, just because I thought you might know this, but I mean, if we were to have some kind of a safety net, would such a safety net, would an appropriate option be to have that particular student or students appear before the school committee and we decide?
I don't know if I want them to do that.
Okay.
No. But that's not saying that you guys can't vote that.
Well, I didn't know, 'cause I'm asking if you think it would be appropriate.
I don't think it would be.
I
Sounds
Okay.
like an inquisition to me.
One of the safety, if I can just speak to one of the safety nets that we had in Sandwich, and I'm not saying that that's the be-all and the end-all, but because we recognize that fact. We had a very tough academic standard in Sandwich. As a matter of fact, I believe, if my memory serves me right, that we did have a no-fail policy in Sandwich. But if a kid did fail and they were involved in co-curricular, and I say co-curricular because we had a co-curricular handbook, and the co-curricular handbook was across the board. It was drama club, it was band, it was athletics, it was student council, it was across the board. The rules were the same for everybody. And the safety net was a contract. If a kid, let's assume for a kid, a student failed a class, let's say a kid's taking AP chemistry and they failed for whatever reason. They would come under a contract, and the contract would be written by a team of teachers, administrators, and the parent would be involved in writing that contract. And the student would have to abide by the contract. One of It may be weekly reports, it might be an extended research project. It could be any number of things that he had to do on an ongoing basis in order to stay playing. And you could only have one contract in your high school career. So I think that that was a way in which it provided a safety net, but yet kids wouldn't be on contracts for the rest of their high school career. So that was a way that we did it down in Sandwich, in which to give the kids a safety net in terms of messing up once and not being, totally discouraged from your high school experience. But, be that as it may, that would be written into the policy. But I'm for second chances, and but I'm for high standards also. And I believe that students will rise to the occasion. The other part of the other danger in this, in my opinion, is the fact that we want to encourage kids to stay in Wareham Public Schools. I would hate to think that if we have a policy that might discourage kids from staying in Wareham Public Schools and playing sports or extracurricular somewhere else. And that you also risk that, but I don't know if that would happen or not. But there is a risk that that could happen. So those are the couple things that, anyone, let someone else, Mrs. Dugan.
So whenever we have,
She dropped it off, okay.
this has been brought up and we've discussed it, I've never heard of a valid argument on why we don't do it. So there hasn't been one, except for, well, we have to present it to them, we have to give notice, we are above the MIA standard, all of that, but there hasn't been one valid reason why we shouldn't look at this and look at all the parameters around something like that. But I also know that we haven't heard from everybody, and
Well,
I
that was going to
think,
be my next point. Go ahead.
so I think that it's important to have a true debate on this, because I wouldn't want to make a decision here with just a discussion between the school committee and the administrators, meaning the principal as well as the athletic director. But let's hear from anyone who has an opinion that keeps the standard the way that it is. Because I think that just goes into, then we've done our due diligence. But again, the 6 years that I've been here, there hasn't been one valid reason why we shouldn't forget the MIA, just, create our own standards based on the kids.
Well, we have. We are higher than this standard.
No, I know, but meaning even going higher. The only other thing that I'd say is that this type of policy was in my own household. So there was a rule. I wasn't the greatest student, and there was a rule that basically what my aunt used to say to me, because I lived with my aunt, said, you have to understand, if you do well, there's no reason why I can say no to anything that's legal. But meaning extracurricular activities, having a job that keeps you, but if you don't make the grade, then there's nothing else. Your only focus is your schoolwork, and that's it, because that's what comes number one in this house. And so I still think that we need to have this open forum, but I think it automatically ups the bar across the board and says sports, extracurricular activities, all of that, very, very important, and makes you a well-rounded individual. But the number one thing is your education. And that's what changing it and doing something different, I think, would actually, it would make that statement. But again, I want to hear this deserves more debate and more discussion.
Mr. Chair, real quick. Just to her point, no, and that's kind of what I expected, because it said discussion, and I was going to, as Cliff was leaving, I mentioned I was going to call, when I saw the agenda item and say, listen, let's make a vote. I said, no, let's do discussion and vote some other time in the future, and you get more feedback.
Right. Mr. Lazarus?
Well, I have a couple of questions. If we're going to say that we have a no-fail policy, does that mean that now that students at the high school are taking 8 courses, they could conceivably get 8 Ds and pass all their classes and be eligible?
Yeah.
Hypothetically, unless there's some other.
Well, no, because
standard.
is there a grade point thing that also they have to maintain? Is it 2.0 or something like that? I don't know. maybe. You could put it in. A great
So
point thing.
conceivably, somebody could get all Ds and still be eligible for extracurricular and/or sports.
Right.
Is this policy of no failures in effect anywhere in the South Coast Conference?
I don't know. It was at Sandwich, I don't know if it still is.
I would defer to Mr. Rodriguez on answering that question, but my guess is it probably is, because he was surprised we didn't have one.
Okay.
Jeff, you wanted to make another point?
No, I agree with virtually all of what said. I think it's an important policy. I've been waiting years and years, as Rhonda says. I've never heard a great argument. There just seems to be momentum. So even if this was a vote to do so, but that we would spend the next 12 months or 6 months or whatever developing a safety net contract, frankly, what you talked about has great appeal to me because it involves the parents. And so that it was implemented with all fall sports of next year, because obviously we're not going to implement it for the fall sports this year because they're already practicing. So I'm perfectly willing to be patient as long as I know we've got momentum to make the change at a date certain. And the contract idea makes a lot of sense to me, especially since our student representative also believes in safety nets.
Right. One of the things that, the way it happened, where I was, and it happened every year the handbooks got reviewed by a committee, and the committee was made up of students, faculty, parents, and I think there was one school committee person on it. And they reviewed the handbooks, and they made changes in the handbooks, and ultimately, the high school handbook had to be firstly approved by the principal, obviously, and then brought for the school committee for their, not really their approval, but their acceptance, I would think. But what happened was, it was an annual thing to review those handbooks. And what happened is as we reviewed them, and it was interesting that the student representatives on the review committees were probably more tolerant, or less tolerant, rather, of failure than the adults were. And it was very interesting how that thing played out. And to be quite honest with you, that no-pass policy emanated primarily from the students through this committee. And it was an annual thing that we did to review the handbooks, both the academic co-curricular the athletic co-curricular handbook, and also the disciplinary handbook. And we would have a committee, like I said before, made up of students, teachers, parents, school council people, and it was really a very unique concept that I thought that we put together. The school council actually put it together, and what came out of it was a very good policy with safeguards built in. So I would strongly suggest that if we're going to pursue this, that we start at the grassroots and put together a group of people that would want to work on this. And I'm talking about teachers, students, parents, school council people, and maybe a representative from the school committee to start developing this policy. And the other thing too is, are we going to reserve this policy for secondary only, or is it going to go across the district? That's something we should decide too, because there's co-curricular obviously at the middle school and even at the elementary level. So I would strongly suggest that a grassroots committee be formed to develop a comprehensive plan for academic standards for co-curricular activities. So that would be a way to do it. But other than, you folks can do it any way you think is best. But I think that would be a good way to start, and then present it to us as the policymakers for our perusal. So
Instead of creating a new committee, would the already existing superintendent advisory committee be a good fit for that?
Well, you can do it any way you want. We wanted to make sure that we had a really strong representation from the student body.
They're open
And that
to
was
the
very
public.
important for us.
Yeah, Dr. Shaver-Hood, they're open to the public, your meetings, right? I mean, and it's got
Well,
a great
the planning
cross-section.
meetings were not open to the public, though.
Oh, really?
The planning meetings were not.
Well, we could do that. We could have it in public, I think.
Mr. Chair, I think that it's
But that's up to you guys to figure out. I mean, I'm just telling you the way it was down in Sandwich.
I think that it's important to not decide on what the procedure is right now. I think that it's important to have the superintendent go back to Principal Palladino as well as the director of athletics to say, this is something that the committee would like to explore and move forward. And then I think that Mike would be a perfect person to be able to at least start that conversation, you know, again, with the superintendent, but him being part of it and deciding, come back and make a recommendation on what the next step is. But I think even before a committee is formed, being able to get that public participation, having some sort of public forum to be able to weigh in, and I think only helps form what the procedure looks like, whether additional students. So I think being able to plan that date, open it up to the community, say this is what we want to discuss, have that all in, and then I think that they will help.
Well, you
at
just
least-
outlined the procedure, though. You said you don't want to outline the procedure, but you just did.
No. All I said was that there just needs to
You
be.
want to have a public session first.
Have a public session first
that's
before
outlining
anything
it.
is. Oh, no, I mean, I could go through, but that's fine. It's a suggestion that I think feedback from the community around
Whatever.
this
I
is
don't care
important
how
to
it
be
goes.
able to then decide on what the next step should be.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think that we've got to recognize that if we're going to set a policy, that this is not a policy that's directed at athletics.
No, it should be co-curricular.
And we may want to ask the AD at the high school for some input as part of this process, but this is not an athletic policy. This is going to be a policy.
Well, it can
that
be if we
is
want it to be.
Going to encompass all extracurricular activities, whether it's the band or the drama club, or the chess club, or whatever else is out there. And it has to be district-wide because we have extracurricular activities in the elementary schools as well as the middle school and the high school. And I don't think that we should be, and I would be very concerned if we were saying, well, we're developing this really for athletics. And everybody else, well, we'll kind of look the other way, as has happened in the past. So we're either going to have a policy, or we're not going to have a policy, but it's not an athletic policy.
Well, that's up to us. Yeah.
But I think that's the reason why you put it on the agenda as co-curricular, because it includes all extracurricular activities.
Well, it did where I was. So I would think that you wouldn't want to discriminate, but maybe you do. I don't know.
No, I agree with everything Mel just said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's see how this plays out in the road. But I agree with everybody on the committee that there has to be a discussion about this. And, you know, academic standards, and we need to have them, and we need to maintain them. And I've always been a believer that wherever you set the bar, our kids will meet the occasion. I really believe that. So, anyways, and yes,
I have scheduled on September 15th a date for open forum. If we would like to make that the topic of the open forum, I would ask for volunteers, 2 volunteers to come. Because if
School committee members?
school committee members to join me at the open forum, because I don't want, well, then
No.
somebody has to come as a citizen, because 3 of you at mine.
Right,
I
then we have
don't
to post
want-
it.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I will be posting on September 15th an open forum for discussion of our policy, or, yeah, policy. And I will broadcast the date.
Great.
okay. Anything further to be said on this? I want to thank Mr. Flaherty for bringing this forward, and we'll see if we can get the ball rolling.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. I'm going to skip over number 6 if I could and go right to number 7. And Madam Superintendent, could you maybe give us some insight on that?
I will. It's time for us to place any warrant articles on the fall town meeting. What you have in front of you are three. The first one article would be to replace the inclined wheelchair lift at Minot Forest. The wording, to see if the town would vote to appropriate, borrow, or transfer available funds, an amount of money to be expended under the direction of the Wareham School Committee for the installation of a new inclined wheelchair lift for Minot Forest. This project would include removal of existing lift and installation of a new lift. The existing lift at Minot Forest is not working. It is so old, we cannot get parts for it any longer, and so we would not be ADA compliant. We have talked about this, and at this point, we would like to put it on for fall town meeting. So I'd be asking for a motion and a vote.
May I ask one question? How much?
We're thinking approximately 50 to 60,000.
You know that that's going to come up.
Yes.
And, Mr. Chair? Will that number be placed in the warrant as well as on the screen up there for town meeting? I mean, it'll have to be in the motion.
Yes, we're just trying to get placeholders right now.
Yeah, okay.
Do you want us to vote on this individually?
No, you can vote all together if you'd like.
What do you guys want to do?
Just individually?
Individually.
Individually.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on the lift? Jeff?
Can I assume that we are not, in fact, grandfathered to not have a functioning wheelchair lift, that this is, in fact, we're not ADA compliant as a result of the fact that it's not functioning? Is that a fair statement?
We would be if we did not have any students. Right now, we have no students that are in wheelchair. However, if we would have students that are wheelchair-bound at Minot, we would be out of compliance. And we would need to do something to fix that situation. We're trying to be proactive. This has been not working for a while. We just need.
But it's also fair to say that this isn't just a function of students. It could be a staff member
That's
who
right.
was in a wheelchair, it could be
Parent,
a parent, it could be anybody.
grandparent.
So,
Yeah.
bottom line is, we're not ADA compliant, and anybody who showed up in a wheelchair and couldn't get in could sue us.
That's correct.
Okay.
Anything further to be said? All in favor of including this article on the warrant
Need
for?
a motion in a second.
Okay.
excuse me.
Thank you. We need a motion to place the lift article on the warrant for October town meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? 500. Madam Superintendent.
The second one would be to insert an article to return Hammond School to town control. This would be to see if the town will vote to transfer care, custody, and control of the Ethel E. Hammond School, so-called, as further described in the filing on file of the Office of Town Clerk from the school committee, held for school purposes, to the Board of Selectmen for general municipal purposes, including sale or other disposition, or to take any action thereto.
Do I hear a motion to include returning Hammond School to the town article for October town meeting?
So moved.
Second for
Second.
discussion? Okay, any discussion?
At
Mr.
this,
Flaherty?
thank you. At this point, who are the tenants in there right now?
The Boys and Girls Club
Solely?
solely.
And they have a relationship with us still at this point, right? Are we their point of contact, or is the town their point of contact?
We are their point of contact.
So that would change,
That would be correct.
and so we would have nothing to do with the Boys and Girls Club at that point.
Well, nothing in a landlord,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, it's after-school things and such.
Yes, we
Yeah.
certainly would
Yeah.
keep our relationship.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear on that. And I recall, what was it, 2 years ago when we first started trying to do this, that there was, I followed the Board of Selectmen discussions on this, and there was some ambiguity on whether or not we could give this back because of the title restrictions, deed restrictions, educational purposes, something like that. So that's going to have to all get worked out, but in general, I do support giving any building we don't have that doesn't have a principal in it back to the town.
Any other comment? Mrs.
Is there
Bugan?
any cost to us right now? Or are we, because of the fees that we're receiving from the Boys and Girls Club?
I'm going to ask Mr. McMillan to address that.
So the Boys and Girls Club only inhabit half of the building, so any other costs related to the other half of the building fall to us. We also are in the position of, you know, as it's one of our buildings, if there's any call-out charges, you know, so if anything happens to it in the evening, one of our custodians gets called out, if there's any problems with any of the utilities, that's something that we have to deal with. So there are direct costs related to the other half of the building, and there are indirect costs related to the management of the property.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I have a motion and a second to have the article included in October town meeting to return Hammond School. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 500. Madam Superintendent?
Thank you. The third article would be to return West to town control. This would be to see if the town would vote to transfer the custody and control of West School, so-called, and further described in a filing on file of the Board of, in the office of the town clerk, from the school committee held for school purposes to the Board of Selectmen for general municipal purposes, including sale or other disposition, or take any action relative thereto.
Do I have a motion and a second to submit for October town meeting the returning of West School as an article?
So moved.
Second?
All right, any discussion? Mrs. Bugan?
How many students are currently or about to be enrolled in West?
Right now, I believe we're at 9.
Okay. And so the work has been done to move the West Academy to East, along with the cooperative. Has the, I know that there was some discussion a while ago with regards to the parameters around that school and to operate that school. Are we 100% on the move and the filing and the change of address and all of that, and there's been no concerns that came down from the people that have, that oversee, the state organization that oversees us allowing to operate a school like West?
We've had no concerns expressed.
Okay.
Mr. Flaherty?
Do you have any sense from the town administrator what they intend to use the building for?
No,
Okay.
I don't.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, no.
And also, where the West Wareham Academy is going to be in the East Wareham School, are we going to rename it?
We are, they're working on a name,
Okay.
yes.
I didn't even think about that, that's a good point.
It's confusing.
Moving, it's called the West Wareham Academy now?
Yeah, now it's in the East.
Yeah. So,
It's the West Wareham Academy at East. Any other discussion?
just one other.
Yeah, Mrs. Bugan?
Mike asked a good point about whether the town has any plans for those buildings, and I'm assuming it hasn't even been voted on, so it's not something they were thinking of, but is there a sense that the town is open, and the Board of Selectmen are open to accepting those buildings back?
We hope so.
Okay.
I know they want Hammond.
Any other discussion? All in favor of returning, having the article on October town meeting to return West School, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 500. And I think that covers the warrant articles, is that
Thank you.
correct? Thank you,
It
Madam
does.
Superintendent. Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Okay, the next, I'd like to go back now, and the only reason I skipped over that is because I had to go get these forms that were outside, because I forgot them at home and my wife had to bring them to me. At least I'm honest. It's the schedule for the superintendent evaluation. I hope that this makes sense to folks.
I need one.
I need one,
Should
yeah.
I have?
You have one, right?
If there's an extra one, we'll take one more from Michelle.
I don't have one more.
Okay.
I'll
It's all right.
I'll give her mine when I'm done.
Okay.
Because I have one, obviously. What I've done is I put together what I thought might be a reasonable timetable for getting the superintendent's evaluation done. And I'd like to have you look it over real quick, not real quick, but look it over and see if it makes sense to you. By the 3rd of September, which would be the next school committee meeting, and obviously the superintendent or anyone could bring the materials to that meeting. All materials should be submitted to individual committee members, and that would include, but not be limited to, copies of the self-evaluation of the superintendent. So the superintendent has to also do an evaluation on herself, and I would like to have that submitted to us by the 3rd. Any materials, I think we have the instrument, but any materials that we might need, request them, and they could be brought to that meeting. And any additional evidentiary documentation that the superintendent would like to submitted by that date. By the meeting of the 17th, all committee members should have given to me their completed evaluation forms, complete with commentary. And then I will take those forms and I will prepare the consolidated report, and I will get that done by the 29th for presentation on the 1st of October. I think that timeline makes some sense. I've gone over it with Dr. Schaefer-Hood. She doesn't seem to have a problem with the timelines, but yet I might have missed something, and so I'd like to ask, what did I miss, Jeffrey? Jeff?
My only problem is that I want a presentation of the MCAS results prior to completion of this form. And maybe Dr. Shaverhood could tell us when that presentation might occur.
Well, I can talk to that.
Good,
We
okay.
can put that 17th up a bit.
Okay.
Not a whole lot, but up a bit.
I understand.
Because that was going to be on part of new business. We were going to have I was going to ask for a presentation on all testing on the 17th. That would be AP testing, SAT testing, MCAS testing, both for all schools. So I'd like to have the 17th as our testing day.
Great.
So if you'd like to put that up a few days, that's not a problem.
I'd appreciate that.
Let's say, can we maybe come up with a date?
Just do it 3 days later, the 20th.
The what?
The 20th? Let me just see. Well, it's a Saturday.
It's a Saturday.
22nd?
I'll still have enough, yeah, if you get it to me by the 23rd. That
Fine,
gives everybody a little time.
fine.
So we'll change the 17th to the 23rd. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Jeff. I just assumed it was
Very
in
good.
there.
Yeah. And the rest of the dates are okay, you think? All right, I don't think we need a motion or anything, but I did want,
Mr. Chair,
yes,
I had one question.
yes.
So when it comes to the additional documentation of the superintendent, I know what has been part of that in the past, which was about this much information.
She's already done one, and she was requested us to sort of go in and get it and look at it. The
Yeah,
one.
just as long as we're not taking this and making 5 copies of it.
No, she's asked us not to do that.
Okay.
I'm talking about anything that hasn't already been submitted in that portfolio that you would like to give us. Just, I don't want anything coming in after that time.
Sure.
That's why that's in
Yeah, and
there.
as much as possible, if it could be submitted electronically, that would be great.
And that would be fine, or you can even include it in that packet as long as we're told that there's additional information in that portfolio.
Okay, thank you.
There is one hard copy of that, and she's asked us to share it, rather than ruin a bunch of forests, to give us all copies.
And that hard copy has been sent electronically to us, right? Because I have
Yes.
something, I didn't know if it was the
Yes.
binder. It is
But
the
I don't
binder.
know if there's anything else in there or not. But-
Not yet, but if I do, I'll.
If you do, just let us know that there's additional stuff by the 3rd. Any other discussion on this?
Can we just circulate the latest evaluation form? Unfortunately, and I apologize that I wasn't at the meeting where the superintendent's evaluation was discussed, but if we can just, whatever the latest is, just send that out one more time along with this timeline electronically, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, I think we can do that. I'm saying okay, but I think we can do that. Because I'm not the keeper of the things.
Yeah.
Michelle, is that possible? Thank you. You can give this to Michelle.
Sure.
That's, what's the date on that I just put on there, Jeff?
23rd.
23rd, thanks.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, how would you like them submitted to you? Does it matter? Or, I mean, just if you want them printed out and sent to you?
I
or-
think you have to, though. Don't you have to submit them printed out?
You have to sign them.
Yeah, I think you have to, unless you know how to do it electronically.
Okay.
But I'm to the point where I can
Whoa.
print it. I'll end up printing it
You can just-
anyways.
You can scan it and send it with your signature, but no problem.
I would prefer it hard, but I
got
can
it.
do it.
You're
No,
the chair.
That's okay.
You can print it, but you gotta get it here. You can't rely on your wife all the time.
I know. That's true, I know. I know, well, I can't remember what I have for breakfast half the times. But anyways, thank you. Well, I wanted to make sure that that was clear before we got into the actual process. Okay. Acceptance of gifts?
I would like to ask the committee to please accept. The first one would be 5 U.S. flags donated by Dunkin' Donuts of West Wareham to each of our schools under the Franklin Flag Adopt a Flag program.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 500.
Thank you very much.
The second would be brooms, mops, and brushes to the Transportation Department from Home Depot.
So moved.
Second.
I just want to know,
Were these
is
used,
Jeff out there?
these weren't used to clean up after the fire, were they?
I don't know. Okay.
Any discussion on the clean sweep? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 500.
Okay,
That it?
it is.
Okay. All right, vote on the national fingerprint check for subcontractors. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you. At the last regular meeting, and no vote was taken for subcontractors. After reviewing your concerns and getting back to supervision and workers in the building, I would like to recommend that all subcontractors, including bus drivers, construction, maintenance-related workers, complete both a background check in accordance with the act relevant to background checks beginning with this school year, which means that they will also need to be fingerprinted. So I'd ask for a vote.
Mr. Flaherty.
So moved?
Second.
Second.
Okay.
Any
No,
discussion on this?
No further discussion from me.
Just to thank the
Mr. Swett?
superintendent for the outcome of her investigation. I think it's the right direction.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 500. Incidentally, I guess my appointment is next week for my fingerprinting, so you've already done it, Rhonda, no problem, and Mel, you've done it? Has everybody done it?
No,
You've
but
done it? Huh?
I do want to say, so it was a painless procedure. It was.
Didn't hurt a bit, did it, huh?
pleasant. It was, they were great there.
Where did you
Um,
go?
To Bourne.
Yeah, that's where I went.
Okay. What I found interesting is that I had a lengthy conversation with the woman doing their fingerprinting, and
Me too.
she was great. I didn't realize that Massachusetts was the last state to adopt this policy, meaning that every single state in the United States have had this policy and fingerprinting.
Embarrassing.
And we are the very last state to have done it. The other thing that, and I addressed my concern with the superintendent and Michelle, and they got back to me, was that, that school starts in a couple weeks, and how are we going to know? I was under the impression by the person that I spoke to that it takes the FBI a little while to be able to get reports back to us. But I've been assured that they're getting reports and able to see if we do have any staff members that haven't completed this task before the start of school. So.
Well, they have to have that paper, so maybe they should submit the paper. At
Well,
least that would
they
give us
do.
an indication.
Yeah, the receipt.
Yeah.
But so we should submit our receipts to the
Right.
superintendent and or Michelle.
Anything else to be said on fingerprinting? Okay, moving right along. Superintendent's report.
I'm happy to report that the high school roof project is about to start. They will be taking the rocks off the roof. I'm told the first of next week, right when we start professional development, so we will be able to hear all the noise as those rocks coming off the roof. But we have had all workers that will be involved with that project. They're in the process of being quarried and fingerprinted, so we will be ready to go.
Madam Super,
Yes.
just a question regarding that, is the contractor that we're paying to do that work paying for the fingerprinting?
Yes, we're not paying for it.
Thanks.
We've made that very clear. Right, Mr. McMillan? Yes.
Thanks.
And I have invited Mr. Tatro to come and address the transportation and give you a little bit of an update, so I would invite him to the podium.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good
evening.
Mr. Tatro.
We've had some changes in the transportation department as far as how the schools are configured, as we know. So we've been working very diligently trying to reduce the length of the runs and obviously have the correct number of students on each vehicle. We have had to make some changes. We've had to bring a lot of the neighborhoods back out to main streets. We're not going into, really the high school runs, high school, middle school runs, we're coming out to main drags, not going into the side neighborhoods. That's pretty much mirroring now what we're doing on the elementary level. We've had to do this because we're now transporting students from the west side of town over to Minot and onset over to Deacon's. So in order to minimize it, we have had to make these changes. The average student's walking about a half a mile to a bus stop, and the average bus ride is about 30 minutes at this point. But at this point, all the buses are loaded properly. All the buses are on time for the average half an hour run. The longest one is about 45 minutes right now. And I do think we're going to be able to reduce that once school starts. We are just asking that the town, the parents and the students be a little bit patient with us as school starts in a couple of weeks. And we've been through some significant changes, as the schools have, and as the students have, and as the parents have. So just asking for a little bit of patience that these changes are occurring. We know we've done everything we can do to make this as smooth as possible. There are going to be glitches. So just work with us, and we've worked really hard to get these buses where they need to be.
Mrs. Vugan?
I received the communication regarding the change in the bus routes and called it up online. What other types of ways are we communicating that out? I think my biggest concern with the first day of school is that parents are not going to be aware of the change, and that we're going to have a lot of students that are just missing their bus. Are we planning on doing multiple communications between now and the start of school and all different kinds of ways?
I
And
can
if so-
certainly work with our public relations department to get it out as quickly and as many places as possible. It will be sent out again next week with actual bus numbers listed, to where, I think this week it just has letters next to it, so it's like Route A. Next week it'll go out again, but there'll be actual numbers on it, so it will be distributed again, and I believe it's supposed to go in the paper next week sometime.
That was my other question, so it is.
We discussed other options, and I can certainly get with Jamie again and continue to see what we can do.
I mean, it's such a big change, and almost every single student is, not all students, but many of our students are affected, and we need to make sure that we're doing everything and over communicating these changes. around their change in bus route. The other thing is that, are we providing multiple ways to communicate? You don't want the first day of school or even the first week that has happened in the past where you have a ton of phone calls that are coming in expressing their concerns, and
We've
so
set up-
are we providing multiple ways and multiple channels for people to communicate, and then how, in a timely manner, we're actually going to get back to them?
Yeah, the best option right now, people are already using it, is we've set up a generic transportation email address. It's transportation@wareham.k12.ma.us. You send it to that, and then I'll get it, or the secretary will get it, and as well as the superintendent's access to that email as well. And we're getting back to them. We're addressing concerns as quickly as we can. And as I said, we've already gotten several emails to that address because it's been publicized online. And yes, we only have 3 phone lines coming into our building. If they're all full, it's going to come up busy, and we're going to get back to you as quickly as we possibly can to address your concerns.
No, and
But your
I'm
best
happy that
bet-
there's an email address.
Your best avenue is going to be that email address.
Okay. So then, I think that, again, working with Jamie, and, of course, through the superintendent, being able to provide a link to that email address in multiple places, like just not even in the schools, but in the papers and the links on their websites. Again, I think that the last thing that we want with all of these changes that are being made is that then we have a customer service problem at the very end, because that's only going to make your job more difficult, and also just, so whatever we can do to provide exceptional customer support during this transition, I think is
Absolutely.
only going to help us in the long
That's why
run.
we're trying to get all this information out now, get the website updated regularly. We're trying to get everything out as early as we possibly can and continually update it. So continually check the webpage, the transportation section of the Wareham Public Schools webpage for any updates. Any news will come through that, and we'll flood as many places as we can with the information.
Okay. Sorry, the last thing, is there any, was there any thought, and maybe it's happening, that I know that in the elementary level that we are receiving postcards with teacher assignments. Any thought around maybe doing a postcard out to every single household saying, at least the number, the letter, because it's now a letter system
No,
that
it
you're
will
on the
be a
key
number.
route.
The number you'll have numbers by Monday.
You will, okay, but somehow communicating that out to every household. I know, huge expense, but, just another suggestion to make sure people understand, all right, what does this mean, and where do I need to go to find out that information? Or where to pick up, so, okay, thank you.
Anything else? Mr. Sweat?
Just to clarify on a couple of additional questions. You said the average distance that a child is going to be walking is a half mile? Did I hear you correctly?
That's correct.
Okay, so some will be more and some will be less.
Correct.
Okay. Does it-
Most will be less, but because of the average, because of the length, none of them are over a mile, though.
None of them are over a mile?
That's correct.
Okay. The number of buses / the number of drivers, how does that compare this year to last year?
Currently, as we start school, we're going to have 20 high school, middle school buses, and we have 8 at each elementary school, so 16 elementary school buses.
And how does that compare to last year?
That's the way we ended last year.
Okay. And finally, are we going to be discussing the purchase of new buses at some point this evening?
Not on the agenda.
We can share with you what the plan is.
As an update, I think it would fall underneath an
Absolutely.
update. Could you
I didn't
give
know
us
she was
a...
ready.
Thank you. Could you give us an update, if possible, of where you stand on the use of the 150,000?
We're looking to purchase some used vehicles with that money. We're in the process of getting some pricing together as far as what route we can go with used buses to best utilize that money.
But at this moment in time, you have the freedom to do that through our purchasing agent.
That is my understanding, yes.
Do you agree with that, Michael?
Just on the point about the authority to purchase the buses, we got clarification from the town attorney, and under the town rules and regulations, any purchase of any new vehicles has to go through town meeting. But the town attorney's advice was that did not cover used buses. So However, we will make, at the same time.
But we still have to go through the
We'll
purchasing
still
agent.
go through an invitation for bids to get the bids in, and we will also, we have informed the town administrator and got his agreement that this is the route we're going to go down. So, we'll make sure everybody is aware of what's going on and what our plan
But
is.
everybody's in agreement?
Yes.
Okay, and
Yep.
so, assuming normal process, when would you expect these new buses, these used buses, to be available to our parents and students?
If we get the bids out, it's about a 6-week process, middle of October.
Middle of October? Okay, thank you. Before the snow flies.
Correct.
Mr. Flaherty?
Yes, actually, Jeff's questions mimic pretty much what I wanted to ask, but just to clarify, I think I heard this year, there's 20 high school/middle school buses, right?
Correct.
And then 8 each for the elementary,
Correct.
so for a total of 36 buses this year.
That's 36 runs, that's still 20 buses, but, it's.
Oh, okay, all right.
I mean,
Oh,
bu-
yes.
bus one will go to a high school, middle school, and then bus one in turn would do an
Gotcha.
elementary run. so
Gotcha, all right, thank you. And that's the same as last year?
That's the way we ended last year.
That's what we
yes.
ended last year. And it kind of answered my other question too, where you had the separate elementary schools. So this elementary schools are being done separately. I tried figuring that out in the bus schedules. So they're all letters, right? So every
Right,
letter is.
there'll be numbers placed with them by Monday.
Yeah. But every letter is a bus, I guess, on that bus schedule.
That's a route, yes.
Yeah. And so if you had a first grader, a fourth grader, and an eighth grader, they got 3 separate buses going to your house, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, right. And yeah, that's all I had at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flaherty. Anyone else? Well, the only quick comment I want to make in terms of, I know the amount of work that's gone into this because of the reconfiguration. It was not an easy task, and I'm sure that there may be 1 or 2 glitches, so I echo your thoughts in terms of being patient, and we'll get it done. But I do know how much work has gone into preparing this, so I want to thank you and your staff for the work that you've done in getting ready for this. So, and then the other thing, obviously, is I'm very happy that we can still transport all our kids to school at this point in time. That's very important to me, and so. It's a tribute to everyone pulling together and trying to find a way to make it work. So I thank you on behalf of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Superintendent?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
And finally, we're fast approaching September 2nd. We're quite excited to begin our 2014-15 school year. And at this time, I would like to thank our unsung heroes, our secretaries, our administrators, our custodians, everyone that has worked very hard. The moving has not been an easy task. It's taken a lot of coordination. It's taken a lot of hard work. And so I thank everyone involved. And I also thank the teachers and staff for their patience as we're unboxing, and just their ability to work with us as we've made it through this summer. I have said to people recently, we will not be moving anything next year.
Amen.
So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, does that conclude the superintendent's report?
I have
It
a
does.
question.
Oh.
Are we all
Mr.
invited for cake and ice cream on?
You are.
Oh, good.
Yes, and I
I'll go
would.
anywhere, anytime for ice cream.
Yeah, on August 27th, we have our opening day. By all means, you're invited to attend. We have professional development at the second part of the day for our high school, middle school, our elementaries, and our east-west school will be going back. As they have new buildings, they need to establish their culture and work with one another in their buildings for professional development. But you're more than welcome to attend. Cake and ice cream begins at 7:30
In the morning?
Works
in the
for me.
morning.
Oh, wow.
Celebration.
All right. Thank you. Anything else? All right, let's move on. School committee reports. Evidently that we haven't done this right, or I'm remiss, or, and I didn't mean to, but I guess we have to have a standing sick bank committee, and I guess we didn't have that. And traditionally, correct me if I'm wrong, traditionally, it's been the members of the school committee that negotiated that contract. Am I right in assuming that? They made up the members of the sick bank, is that correct?
Correct, for the school committee.
For the school committee. So, I want to know if the members of the school committee would like to continue that policy to, if you negotiated a contract, you're automatically on that sick bank committee for that particular group.
That's fine.
Any problem
Doesn't matter
with
to
that?
me, it's fine.
That's fine? Okay, because I sat in on one of the sick bank hearings, and I guess I wasn't supposed to, because I never negotiated, so it was my mistake.
It's hard to kick you out, you know,
I
you're
know,
quite a
that's all right.
presence.
Thank you. So that's squared away. And then also, there's been a couple of imperfections, so to speak, in the current superintendent's contract. So I would like to have her current contract reviewed by the members, I think, that put it together or worked with her on that. So that would be, is it Jeff and Mike?
I think it was just the superintendent's contract?
Yeah.
I
I think that was just me.
Was it Rhonda?
Yeah.
Can you and Jeff
Happy to.
sit down? There's a couple of imperfections in there that we'd like to get squared away.
Okay.
All right?
You want me to join her?
Yeah.
Fine.
Would
Happy
you do
to.
that? You guys can do it nice? You can play nice?
If she promises to be nice, I'll be nice.
We're fine.
All right, thank you. No, I'm only kidding.
Yeah, I know.
No, there's just a couple of things that we need to fix.
Fine.
Okay? That's
Okay.
good.
Who will, when we meet with the superintendent to go through it, who will point out those
Imperfections.
imperfections? Or are we just going to
I can't-
review the whole entire thing?
No, I
Okay.
can, superintendent can.
All right.
Yeah, if you could send us the things you've identified.
Right.
And then we can run with that.
Right.
Yeah, if not, then we'll just be going point by point.
No, it's not, we're not opening up negotiations.
Okay,
No, the contract's set.
okay.
I just want to make that clear, that we're not opening up negotiations.
No,
It's
no,
just
so
a-
that, yeah, that's why I just
Right.
identify
Right.
those pieces that you've seen, and we can, yeah,
That'll be
review it
fine.
and, yeah.
Right, okay, is that all right with you, Madam Superintendent?
Of course.
All right. And now, we need to talk about the future meetings with the Board of Selectmen and FinCom. I entered into a conversation with Chairman Slavin, and he wanted to have a joint meeting of all three committees today. Well, obviously, we couldn't do that today. So he has isolated preferably September 8th or the 15th. Now, I didn't want to speak for the committee. I don't know what's on your plates, I don't know what you got planned. And again, this was not on the schedule, so I would probably want a motion to meet jointly, because it is not on our schedule. So I just open it up for discussion on what you folks want to do in terms of meeting jointly with the other two committees. Mr. Flaherty.
The superintendent already announced that the 15th was her open forum day,
Right.
so the 8th would probably be better.
All right, so the 15th, that's right, the 15th is, I think he prefers the 8th too. Slavin, Chairman Slavin. Mr. Sweat.
I don't have any problem with the 8th, but I do want to make sure that you are satisfied that we have a substantial agenda that will keep all parties on track and interested.
Right now, I certainly have a certain degree of ambivalence, because I don't know what the agenda is, to be quite honest with you. The agenda is the budget for next year. And at the last joint meeting, I said that, I think that we, in terms of the limited resources that we're going to have for the FY16 budget, that, I think we have to set 2 or 3 major priorities for the town and the school department and fund those. But So that would be my agenda, but I can't speak for the committee. Mrs. Vugan?
Do you still have something?
Well, I just want to make it clear that I'm perfectly willing to defer to your judgment as to whether the agenda is likely to produce a productive hour or two.
I can't promise that.
But
I
it,
don't know.
and, well, then I don't want to meet if you're not satisfied it's going to be productive.
Well, I'm not
Period.
saying, no, I can't promise that it will be. I hope it would be. My anticipation is that it would be, but I don't know.
Can I please?
Yes.
So I think what's important is that there is, between the chairs, there is a concerted effort to produce that agenda, not produce, but to create that agenda for the committee members, and so that there's a clear outcome for that. I think that
For the meeting of the 8th?
for the meeting on the 8th.
Okay.
And the reason why is because it's happened time and time again. This is before, we started the joint meetings when I was chair, that before that, whenever the groups met, every single time we met and there was an agenda or a clear outcome of what we wanted to do at that meeting, two things happened. One, continued frustration kept happening, where all of a sudden it was just, all right, we're not going to meet anymore, because we would get together and everyone had their own agenda that they would come with to the table because we hadn't set what the clear objective is. The other thing is that then people were more in a reactive state than a thoughtful state and a proactive state, that they're coming prepared because an agenda was given out to everyone beforehand. And so they basically said, all right, one of the things that is going to happen at this meeting is that we are going to discuss and brainstorm revenue, potential new revenue streams, or we're going to talk about consolidation, or we're going to talk about ways to cut costs, or whatever it was. Then members were able to go and do the research that they needed to do and come with an intelligent thought at that meeting. I'm not saying intelligent thoughts don't go at those meetings, but I think that when there's no structure to that meeting and no clear outcome of what the chairs are hoping to achieve from that, it's just, sometimes it's productive, and then the majority of the time, it is just everyone.
All I can say to that, Mrs. Vugan, is that I will be more than willing to sit down with the other two chairs and to try to get a focus for the meeting and to establish some kind of an agenda. But I can't speak for the other two committees. I can only make myself available to work collaboratively with them. I understand your point, I appreciate your point, but I can only speak for me. And all I can say is that I will relay the message to Chairman Slavin that, well, let's sit down and try to scratch out a focus and an agenda for that meeting. And that's the best I can do.
No, and I appreciate that, and I think that the only other message, if you so feel to pass it on, is that if we do meet jointly and there's not an agenda, then one of the things that I will ask for is before the end of that meeting, that we have 10 minutes or 15 minutes carved out at the end of that meeting to discuss what the agenda is going to be next time. And so there's a collaborative spirit between, stop it. So one way or the other, if it's not this meeting, then the next meeting, there's going to be some sort of structure around these meetings, because just talking generally about the woes of our town and generally what might happen, it turns into a complaint instead of what we're elected to do, which is coming together and truly collaborating around how we're going to fix some of the things that are going on in this town. And they just don't happen at these joint meetings. So thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Mr. Flaherty?
I'd like to suggest two agenda items, and I don't see why anyone would object. I'd like to discuss sharing between the two in terms of the selectmen bring this up all the time, that we need to do more sharing in terms of information technology. Maybe there's some overlap there, some redundancies that we can, get rid of if we share our resources, stuff like that. even the town website, maybe we can share our media person for them to, stuff where we can work together on. I'd like to have that discussion. And while we're at it, I mean, why not just, since it's before town meeting, just at least see what they had in mind for the buildings that we're about to give up.
Could you repeat the I didn't understand.
Buildings.
Just
buildings?
the
warrant articles?
The warrant articles,
Okay,
yeah, for the
thank you.
buildings that we're about to give back.
Okay.
Well, I guess what I'm asking now, and what I told the Chairman Slavin that I would do, is I just wanted to throw it out there, if there was a will from the committee to continue to meet. And from what I'm hearing, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that there is a will to continue meeting if there's a focus, if there's an agenda, if there is a proactive approach to the meetings. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Mr. Sweat?
We have two chief executives. While some members of these committees may have, quote, bright ideas, we are not charged with implementing things that are going to save money. And in fact, it's presumptuous for us to think that we can play that role. But what we can do is use our experience and knowledge, et cetera, to react constructively to ideas presented to us. So it would seem to me, as a minimum, perhaps I'm less patient than my colleague, Mrs. Vugan,
No,
but
that's a great idea.
it would seem to me if one of the agenda items was, okay, if we have a $600,000 problem, which they announced at the last meeting, I would love to hear these two executives articulate their ideas, and I would expect them to have shared them between them, each other, before this meeting, so that we have something constructive to react to and to give guidance to both of these executives. And it's going to be a difficult conversation, but the fact is, it would be a productive use of our time to react to what our executives think needs to be done in order to deal with a $600,000 deficit. And if that deficit turns out to be retrospectively $300,000 instead of $600,000, great. We can always use the surplus. There's lots of reasons. If it turns out to be $900,000, well, we've at least 2/3 of the way there. But that would be a productive use of the time as far as I'm concerned, and I would be happy to attend such a meeting. Otherwise, I can't actually say that I will be able to suppress all my yawns.
I like your candor. All right, so I will meet with Chairman Slavin, and hopefully the superintendent can meet with Mr. Sullivan. We'll try to map out a strategy for the evening. So, but is it safe to assume that the 8th is the primary date and that the 15th is out? Is that correct to assume? All right, so that gives me some direction. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And I do appreciate your comments, I really, really do.
No, I want to scratch everything that I said before, and that the agenda is not by the two chairs. The town administrator and the superintendent actually create the agenda for every single one of these meetings, and I will attend them as many times as they want.
No, but you want your time to be well spent, but you want it to be proactive. We understand what the problems are, and then we can go over the problems, and over them, and over them, and over them, and that really doesn't provide us with any solutions. I want to talk about solutions, and I want to talk about priorities in terms of taking limited resources that we have and put them to the best use. Because I am of the mindset that it's better to have 2 or 3 things that are really good than trying to spread our resources and having everything that's mediocre. So, let's concentrate on making those few things excellent. Unfortunately, it's going to be limited to a few things, so I guess that's where we're at on that. So that takes care of that. At this particular time, does anyone have any other business that they would like to discuss? I have a couple of pieces. All right, so we've talked about the joint meeting. I did mention before that we were going to split up the testing, and we were going to have the high school do their AP and SATs on the 3rd. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought that was really kind of unfair. So let's do all of the testing on, what is it, the 17th? And I think that that's a better approach to do it. Also, all right, we've already discussed the joint meeting, so I guess, oh, and also on the agenda, for the next meeting on the 3rd, I would like to have a discussion about our administrative structure and costs, in terms of how we compare with other similar districts administratively, both central and school-wide. I'd like to have that on the agenda for the 3rd. Is there any other business at this particular time?
If
Mrs.
it's
Bugle.
the meeting on the 17th, can we get on the agenda an update on transportation? Because we'll be open 2
Certainly.
weeks by then.
Would you like? All right. Michelle, did you hear that?
No, I was.
My fault, I was interrupting.
An update on transportation on the 17th.
So the agenda for the 17th, an update on transportation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion, any other business at this time? Mr. Flaherty.
Just, no, we're talking about all these dates, and I had discussed offline with Dr. Shiva Hood about the LEA closing of the books, and where would that fit in our schedule?
It's going to be at the next meeting.
The very next meeting? Oh,
That'd be the
good.
3rd.
Oh, good.
Okay. Mr. Sweat?
And I thought Mike brought up a really interesting point. I can't remember, it was one of his emails. And that is the $500,000 cut that the state asked us to make was based on their lack of confidence in our revenue. It would be really interesting, as part of your report, Michael, if you could get from the town just how well we did estimate our revenues for last year and what happened to that $500,000.
Exactly.
Good point.
That'd be a very, very good point. Thank you, Michael. Any other business at this time? I want to thank the committee for a very productive meeting tonight, and I'd also like to, again, congratulate Dr. Schaefer Hood on getting her doctorate.
Are we going into
Yes.
executive session?
Yes.
Well, that's going to be my next thing. At this particular time, to update on negotiations, we have to have an individual vote to go into executive session for the purpose of updating negotiations. So at this particular time, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second?
Yes.
We need individual? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We are now in executive session. We will not be taking any votes, or the only thing we'll be doing is reconvening to adjourn.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.